We have some empty seats here, please.
Want a light show? You have a light show.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. My name is Marisa Frangi. I am the Director of the Office of Family and Sanctity of Life, and I am a certified FertilityCare practitioner and also an educator intern. And I would like to welcome all of you to this seminar. Thank you, and thank you to everyone who made this seminar possible, starting with Saidna and Monsignor Jim and the School of Evangelization, Christian Rada, and Ted Moscow. This is, as you know, this is an event co-sponsored by the Eparchy of St. Maron, and just so you know, not only it's being live broadcast, but we have people conference calling from other states, from the Maronite parishes, who are listening to the seminar also with us. I'm very grateful for your presence here, and I'm really excited about this evening. Only practitioner people can understand how excited we're all about this event, because we really understand how important this work is, and we want to spread this work. Before I introduce our bishop who's going to do the opening prayer, I just want to share with you two stories. One of them had really helped me a lot to feel that this is really needed work and inspired more what we're doing tonight. This is a story of one practitioner intern that I met in Omaha a few months ago, and she was sharing what made her become a practitioner. When she was engaged, her priest made it required for her and her fiancé to go and take natural family planning classes. They were sexually active. Well, we don't even use the word sexually active. They were having intimate intercourse before marriage, and she was using a birth control pill. And when they went to learn the Creighton Model, they were determined that they're not giving up the birth control pill or their lifestyle. But she said the way the practitioner was teaching them, something attracted her, and she decided to come back for follow-up sessions. And she said the practitioner challenged their bad behavior. And as a result of learning the Creighton Model system and the follow-up sessions, they end up embracing secondary chastity until they got married. She stopped using the birth control pill, and she came into the Catholic faith. So what we're doing in the Creighton Model is really great work that unfortunately not a lot of people talk about it, not a lot of people know about it, so that's why we're so glad that we're able to do this seminar to educate all of you about it. Some people are here and they're wondering if this is going to really benefit them. So there's another short story that I heard from one of the Lighthouse City about a little girl who went to a store, and she liked a bracelet made from pearl, plastic pearl. And she bought it, and her father bought it for her, and she was wearing it always. And every night her father would come to her and would ask her to give him the bracelet. And the daughter would refuse to take it off. Day after day, weeks after weeks, he would ask her, and she would refuse to do that. Until one day where she accepted and she gave it to her father. And when she did, her father gave her a box, and when she opened the box, she found in the box a bracelet with real pearl. The moral of the story, some of us have our mind already set that the Catholic Church is against women. The Catholic Church doesn't have something good to offer to women. So what I'm asking all of you here, give us your plastic bracelet and let us give you the real one, because what you're going to learn in here today, this is the real teaching of the Church, and no one as much as the Catholic Church upholds the dignity of women. So to introduce our first dear speaker, who's our bishop, our dear Bishop Gregory Mansour. Saidna Bishop Gregory Mansour was born in Michigan. He was ordained to the priesthood in 1982, and after 1 year he became a pastor of his first assignment in Uniontown. In 2004, Pope John Paul II made him bishop, and he was consecrated as the bishop of the Eparchy of St. Maron. And we're so blessed, all the Maronites on the East Coast, we're so blessed to have such a wonderful bishop as Saidna Gregory. Sayyidina Gregory also was nominated recently as the chairman of Catholic Relief Service. Sayyidina, thank you so much for all your support, and please lead us in the
Thank you, Maurice. And thank you, Maurice and Peter, for all that you did to make this happen today. I know that it's part of your passion, and it's also been part of mine. Just a word before we open up in prayer. Before I was a priest, my field was health education. Back in the 70s, I could see the controversies back and forth about natural family planning and artificial contraception. I knew there was something wrong, even though I was not even religious at that time. I knew there was something wrong in college. And then when I read Pope Paul VI's Humanae Vitae in 1968, I saw a direct challenge, not to women, but to men, to everyone, to respect the natural fecundity, the natural humanity, the natural beauty of woman. And I felt for the first time, this is an opportunity for the church to speak. And so I've always wanted to see a day like today happen. And it was because of Maurice and Peter and Monsignor Jim and his NaPro active pro-life committee in the eparchy, and also twinning with the Diocese of Brooklyn that made this happen. So thank you for all for being here. I was asked why we're doing it here. First of all, Church of Our Lady, the month of Our Lady. And third, Our Lady for all ladies. And us men, we can learn plenty by just respecting and honoring the women in our lives. And so this is a gift for you ladies, and it's a gift for us to learn how to better understand the mystery of woman, the beauty of woman. And so let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessing upon our doctor, upon our listeners, and upon everybody who partakes by video or what other means of communications there are. May this evening be redound to your glory and be for our good and our salvation. We ask you to bless this time and bless our hearts and minds, that we can throw away our artificial pearls and put on our pearl real bracelet. And may Almighty God bless us in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, this event is co-sponsored by the Eparchy of St. Maron and by the School of Evangelization of the Diocese of Brooklyn. Bishop DiMarzio is not able to be with us, but we have two representatives of the School of Evangelization. Christian Rada, who's the coordinator of marriage, family life, and respect life education for the Diocese of Brooklyn, and Ted Moscow, the executive director for the School of Evangelization. And Christian will say a word on behalf of Bishop DiMarzio.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Christian Rada. I'm the coordinator of marriage, family life, and respect life education. That's a mouthful. Bishop says I'm young, so I can have all that stuff to do. Okay, just a little joke. On behalf of Bishop DiMarzio and Ted Musco for the School of Evangelization, I just want to thank you for coming here tonight and being an active voice for natural family planning. We live in a world that, people hear natural family planning and they run away, even though it's natural. I can tell you that it is part of the bishop's intentive and mission that to promote natural family planning. We are currently having multiple webinars that are teaching natural family planning to couples, and we're hoping that one of these seminars can be an aid for not just for Brooklyn and Queens, but for all over. So I want to again thank you all for coming here tonight.
And now I'm going to introduce our keynote presenter. Dr. Paul Carpentier and Nurse Jamie Hutchinson and the Catholic Health Services of Long Island worked to successfully open over a year ago the new Gianna Center for Women's Health and Fertility at Good Samaritan Hospital in Long Island. He was one of the first family physicians who were trained in NaPro technology, and he was honored with the International Award for Outstanding Medical Consulting in Natural Family Planning. Obstetrics and family medicine resident as well as women healthcare had gone to him asking him for his consultation and for his medical care. He was actually honored when he was in Worcester by the Diocese of Worcester. They conferred on him the Mother Teresa Pro-Life Award for his 25 years of pro-life women efforts in the diocese. And he was the president of the American Academy of FertilityCare Professionals, and he serves on the board of directors of the International Institute for Restorative Reproductive Medicine. He graduated from St. Louis University School of Medicine with honors in high-risk obstetrics and medical ethics. He and his wife, Susan, are parents to 4 professional young men. And finally, he served as a clinical consultant to the National Center for Women's Health and Fertility and has encouraged the development of new Gianna centers across the country. And he's currently the director of the Gianna Center in Long Island. And we have Jamie Hutchinson, his nurse practitioner here. Dr. Paul Carpentier, please. We're looking forward to your presentation. I'm so grateful you're able to be with us tonight.
Wonderful. Let's hear from Maurice for sending this all out. I think I'd rather not use the microphone. If I didn't use the microphone, is it good or not good?
It's not good for me.
Not good for you. Oh, for you. Okay. I'm going to go back to the beginning of my slides, and let's see, make sure I'm going in the right direction. So that I didn't want to do this, my friends. I'm just going back to the beginning. I had that slide for us for when you were gathering. You could have a thought in mind. So, Maurice talked about learning to appreciate women's fertility. And I think that's what our culture needs so badly. We need to heal the culture. And all of you here are part of that mission of healing the culture. These are my 4 boys in the background, oldest on the left, youngest on the right, and we're at Peter's wedding. Peter here and his bride Jackie this past summer here on Long Island became married, even though we're from Massachusetts, because she is from West Islip. And it's God's graces that Bishop Murphy brought me to Long Island, centered me in West Islip, where our future in-laws were located. So we got extra graces at the same time that we followed God's plan in our lives. And I just bring this up because here's our future daughter-in-laws, and we would hope that these young men respect them for who they are, made in God's image and likeness, as women as they are as men. And that is just such a beautiful thing, and as our bishop said, it's really getting to the heart of authentic feminism, to respect us for how we are made. And our next slide is something that when I teach pre-marriage couples, this is a disposition, this is a frame of mind that we need to have when it comes to our fertile ground and the harvest, but also the fertility that's within us. Together as a couple, a woman cannot be truly fertile bringing a new person into the world. Neither can a man by himself. It's only together. And we would say the reason we use the word procreation instead of reproduction, zebras reproduce, ants reproduce, but humans procreate, because there's a third person. And you can see our artist is helping us to keep that in mind. And of course the bowed heads in appreciation for how we are made and what we are given. The gift of our fertility. The gift of the fertility of the earth. And so we need to come to this appreciation. But I ask you, how can we appreciate something that we do not understand? If we went to some Aborigine community in Australia and talked about Jesus, and we say, oh, we appreciate him so much, they would have to say, first tell me about him so that I can appreciate him. So if we say we need to appreciate our fertility, but we don't understand our fertility, then we're beating a drum that has no understanding to it. And so my point is that our fertility care practitioners are the people that help us to understand. And then we can begin to appreciate. And Jamie, and Alicia, and Maurice, and so many other people are practitioners bringing that understanding to our communities. Then we can appreciate it. Once we appreciate something, we can respect it. And once we respect ourselves, then we would expect others to respect us, such as a young man in high school looking towards a young lady. If she doesn't understand and appreciate and respect herself, she's not going to expect that respect from him. So it all starts with understanding our fertility, and that's what we're here to teach you tonight. So there are many systems of monitoring a woman's cycle. And now there are actually hundreds of apps. And the apps do not teach you about your cycle. They're just a way to record your cycles. So the apps need to be thought of as third line or fourth line kind of recording systems. Instead, the person-to-person that you would get with the Creighton Model. And yes, it can be done by Skype, but much preferably to be done in person, because this fertility care practitioner is not only teaching you about your ovaries and your pituitary, but she's teaching you about your relationships and being respected for who you are. NaPro technology is, so to speak, the child of the Creighton Model fertility care system. Once Dr. Hilgers and his team, and I'll show you a picture of Dr. Hilgers in a minute, once they developed the Creighton Model, they came to realize that women's health problems were being manifested in their charting. Whether it was polycystic ovary, they have a classic appearance in their charting. Infertility patients had like A, B, and C forms of manifestations, and so on. You'll see some of those reflected here. Creighton Model was developed at Creighton University because that's where the Pope Paul VI Institute is. The Pope Paul VI Institute was named after Pope Paul VI because of Humani Vitae, this beautiful document, probably 25 pages, that the bishop referenced, that changed my life and my wife's life and our boys. And it's just so beautiful. The world and the media responding to this, and many bishops, unfortunately, responding to this, said, this is saying no to contraception. And I always clarify, this was not saying no to contraception. This was saying yes to aspects of our relationships that are good for us. Once you understand what's good for us, then you'd say, contraception? Why would you want to do that? There's a doctor, a friend of mine in Massachusetts, and a teenager, she's a family doctor, when a teenager asks her for contraceptives, she screams and backs up. I won't scream at this, make you jump, but she screams and backs up. You go, why would you want to do such a thing? And the child is like, well, everybody's doing it. Why are you coming down on me? So Humani Vitae encouraged Dr. Thomas Hilgers and his team to form not only the Pope Paul VI Institute, but to go further and develop the Creighton Model fertility care system, which was a ratification of the Billings method. Dr. John and Lynn Billings in Australia developed the Billings method, and it was the first on the scene. And so, of course, when you have a new scientific method, first someone's got to prove that they were right. And that's what they started to do at the Pope Paul VI Institute. And then, as I said, that led to the offspring, so to speak, called NaPro technology, which I'll teach you about. So it was a response to the challenge of Humani Vitae. If you read Humani Vitae, the last few pages say, I challenge men of science to develop a further understanding of women's cycles so that we can bring that to the clinical practices. We can bring that to the research world and improve upon our understanding. It also challenged bishops, and it challenged the laity to respond to these things. I'll be talking about Humani Vitae, but also Donum Vitae, the gift of human life, and how that is saying, if you understand the gift, why would you want to put it in a petri dish? And then these others I won't talk about today, but they're beautiful, beautiful teachings, and of course the Catechism is a quick reference. Use the index, ask yourself a question, find it in the index, go to the paragraph, it's all right there, so easy. Those are our guiding documents. And this is me. I thought I was going to be a marine biologist on Jacques Cousteau's team, but God had other plans. So let's learn a little bit about the Creighton Model fertility care system. Is it a method of contraception? No, far from it. It's to teach a woman each and every day whether she can achieve a pregnancy or not. And she can develop a respect for that power, that opportunity to bring a new life into the world. So it's not contraception, it's actually a system of family building. So natural family planning is respect for God's plan, respect for our human fertility, and how he chose to bring life into the world. Dr. Janet Smith, a great theologian now at Notre Dame, says God could have had life come into the world however he wanted. He chose this way. We need to learn from that. So fertility is good. Unfortunately, many gynecologists in the world think fertility is not good, and many population control people think it's not good. There's the opportunity within this method of total self-giving as sacrifice, self-sacrificial giving. And isn't sacrifice a good thing when it's directed in the right way? Yes, there's marital bonding, and when you have self-sacrifice and marital bonding linked together, the divorce rate is so low. And it respects natural moral law, which we will get into maybe if we have time. Contraception, on the other hand, shows no respect for God's plan, no respect for human fertility. The words itself means against conception, and it reminds me of a book called Blessed Are the Barren. It's the ideas of Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger took Blessed Are the Barren to another level as far as who should be barren. That's another topic. It allows for instant gratification, or the focus to be on pleasure. The focus to be on the pleasure part and avoiding the pregnancy. And with that, the poor ladies, they would say, I think I'm not really a partner in this, but I think I'm the source of your pleasure. That means I'm being used. And using persons went out with the 13th Amendment when we got rid of slavery. We need to be respected as persons, not used. And of course there's side effects to these, but there's benefits to these. Okay, so that's a quick summary. Furthermore, we could say, is it the rhythm method? Isn't the rhythm method natural family planning? And this is true. The rhythm method is like maybe one of the first methods of natural family planning, but you'll see some differences in a few minutes. So let's find out what those differences are. So I'm jumping ahead to part 6. I'm giving you the condensed version of something that I teach deacons, for instance. I'm brought into deacon training programs. So here's a schematic of the woman's reproductive system. When I was in med school, all that we were taught about the cervix was that that's where you do a pap smear, and that it's the muscle that holds the baby in for 9 months. As the baby expands within the womb here, as the baby expands and the womb is getting very heavy and starting to contract, the cervix has to be, very, very strong and resist those contractions. That's it. That's med school 101, 202, 303. That's all of it. That's all we learned. But there's a doctor named Dr. Odeblad in Sweden who spent his life's work studying these cervical crypts, which is going to be the basis of much what we talk about today. Of course, there's the ovary on each side. The ovary is about as big as your thumb. 250,000 eggs in each ovary, so to speak. And the delicate fallopian tubes that are easily damaged by chlamydia and gonorrhea and by endometriosis. Endometriosis is like the plague for Jamie and Alicia and I. We can talk about that. And it might have a very easy solution called vitamin D, but that's jumping ahead. So the scientific foundations of human fertility. How can we tell on the outside of our bodies what's happening on the inside of our ovaries? And what influences ovarian function? Being up studying for final exams is one. How can that influence my ovary function? The ovary here is depicted an entire month's cycle. You have follicles that are waiting to be called. And once they're called, they will start to develop. One follicle, maybe two, start to develop. They do not move around the ovary as depicted here. That all happens in one area. But what you have before you is a schematic of what happens in a 1 month time. What is it that calls that follicle to go forward is the pituitary gland. Way up here in the brain, sends a message through the bloodstream, down through the bloodstream. It's called FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, causes the follicle to start to grow. Believe it or not, insulin is very much involved in this. And that's the deficit with people with polycystic ovarian syndrome. The insulin molecule doesn't work with its receptor very well, and she never gets, or seldom gets mature follicles. Instead, the follicles are stuck at one of these early stages. And so we can help her to get to a mature follicle and then achieve a pregnancy through the process of ovulation. After ovulation, the corpus luteum develops, and it makes this very precious hormone, my favorite hormone, called progesterone. Before they identified progesterone around 1950, they knew that it existed from animal studies and other revelations in the human body. They knew that there was a hormone that they needed to find that supported pregnancy. They said, when we find it, we're going to call it progestation. Progesterone means good for pregnancy. Because they knew when the progesterone dropped, the pregnancy would fail. New studies just out this year show that the progesterone needs to be there before implantation. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So here is progesterone being made, but as you see, it does not happen until the time of ovulation. Then progesterone comes up, and it needs to plateau for about 10 days. And it's during that time that the baby will be implanting into the wall of the uterus. The progesterone is very important for the wall of the uterus. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture, but blood vessels reaching out to feed the baby at the lining of the womb, that inner lining of the womb. Those blood vessels depend on progesterone to do their job and to actually relinquish oxygen to the baby. Progesterone is necessary for that. Many of the people that come to us at the Gianna Center, their progesterone levels come up about like here and then go down like this. And not only does that lead to a failure of pregnancies, but it leads to premature birth down the road if they survive long enough, and it leads to PMS symptoms. Progesterone being lower than estrogen causes PMS symptoms, irritability, trouble focusing, trouble concentrating, trouble with memory, trouble sleeping, breast soreness, bloating feeling in the pelvis. All of these things are from the progesterone being too low. How do doctors treat PMS these days? Antidepressants, antipsychotics even sometimes, sedatives, addictive things like Ativan and Xanax and things like this. They say, we'll calm you down. It's like, it's not a personality defect. It's a lack of progesterone. Give the poor lady some progesterone, and then her brain will know what to do with it. And her pituitary will know. And if she has plenty of progesterone, her next cycle will work better. And so often, that's all it takes for these ladies that are having infertility or recurrent miscarriages, just to give them some extra progesterone. Very safe thing to do. Bioidentical means it matches perfectly with their own, it is their own progesterone. Estrogen, this is how the doctors usurp the endocrine system of the woman. They give her high levels of drugs that are very potent and match with some of the estrogen receptors in her body, and that shuts off things. The progesterone encourages things, high levels of estrogen shut them off, and that's what's in the birth control pills. And this is dangerous. This can cause migraine headaches, can cause depression, can cause strokes, blood clots, pulmonary embolism, liver cancers, and so on. We'll see a slide about that. So messing with high levels of estrogen shuts things down and causes problems. Here's the manifestation now of how her ovaries are working. Each one of these across here is a day 1, day 2, day 3 of her cycle. We call day 1 of her cycle the first day of bleeding. The first day of bleeding, we would label that as day 1. And she describes it for us very succinctly. Heavy. Next day, heavy. Next day, medium, medium, light. So here's 5 days of bleeding. Some days, some women it's 7 days, some women it's 9 days or more. But normally it would be something like 5 to 8 days. Here she tells us that she's not seeing any more bleeding and she's not seeing any cervical mucus. So she labels it with a green sticker. But once she starts to see some cervical mucus, which I'll teach you about, she labels that with this white baby sticker, meaning I have the potential of achieving a pregnancy today. Each and every day she knows. Each and every day she knows. So when you talk about being pro-choice, it's like, would you choose to have a pregnancy or would you not? There's your pro-choice. It's not later killing an innocent human being. It's pro-choice now. And this mucus unfolds, it develops, and she can tell that it's developing, and it's a manifestation of those, I'm going to go back a slide, manifestation of these higher levels of estrogen caused a difference in her mucus. And with people like Jamie and Alicia, they are taught how to observe these things and respond to them and understand them. Then after ovulation, which she labels as her peak day, I don't have time to define that, but the progesterone comes on the scene, and progesterone dries up cervical mucus. This is the gateway for sperm to get to the fallopian tube. Once ovulation takes place, there's no need for anything to get up towards the fallopian tube. So the progesterone dries up that mucus. Here's the combination of the two findings put together. The black bars are her estrogen levels, and you see that the estrogen rises way up above 40 at times. We're hoping for more than 250, or in this description it would be 25. We're hoping for more than 25, and that is a mature follicle. And it's manifested by excellent cervical mucus. The cervical mucus is evident to her at the opening of the vagina. When she simply wipes with toilet paper, she's taught what to observe on the tissue, and the meaning of that, and the description of that. 10 kL AD. That's prime time fertility. 0 AD means nothing all day. Didn't see any cervical mucus. And she continues her observations very carefully, and she's learning from them, and so is the doctor, able to glance at this and see how well her ovaries are working. The progesterone levels are manifested here, and they do the drying up phase like we spoke about. So maybe some of us in the audience understand this already, but I wanted to take some time so that we're all on the same page. So can we use this information for family planning? Yes, of course. If the mucus is there, you can achieve a pregnancy. If it's not there, you cannot achieve a pregnancy. And how about the rhythm method? Why doesn't that work so well? It's because people's cycles vary in length from short cycles to long cycles. But notice the shaded area here. The day of ovulation is always preceded by cervical mucus. So whether she's having a long cycle or a short cycle, if she's paying attention to the cervical mucus, it can be used as a method of family planning. The rhythm method was guesstimates, calendar-like guesstimations based on her past 3 cycles. Well, the cycles vary. This is not just 3 different women. This is the same woman, 3 different types of cycles. And you'll see that right here. This is our Creighton Model lingo, as you've just learned. And so in this cycle, the time till ovulation was 14 days. In this cycle, it was only 9 days. And in this cycle, it was 20 days. So the rhythm method would say, well, you can probably count on the first 8 days being infertile. In this cycle, the first 8 days would have brought about a baby, God willing, because she had cervical mucus right here, evident at the end of her menses and the next several days afterwards. Sperm can live 5 days in the cervical mucus. She ovulated here on day 9, so any intercourse, either day 9, 8, 7, 6, or 5, could have conceived a baby, potentially. So there is a method. Maybe that's why some of us are in this room. And another feature that's evident here is the length of the post-ovulation phase, 14 days, 15 days, 13 days. You notice that it's very repetitive. It's very dependable, or it should be. People that's not are high risk of miscarriage. And I'll show you that in a minute. Here's a couple that's trying to achieve a pregnancy. The eyes indicate intercourse. So here, during a fertile day, they chose to have intercourse, and the next day she ovulated. There was intercourse again the day after, and her period didn't start. And it still didn't start, and it still didn't start. And so she ran a pregnancy test. Any of Jamie's patients or Alicia's patients would know that they were pregnant over here. They didn't have to wait way over here. And in fact, oftentimes they're pushing the limit and calling us with pregnancy tests over in here. So that's the method being used to achieve a pregnancy. So as I said, here it is in writing, sperm without mucus die within hours, but sperm with good mucus can live 3 to 5 days. So this is the essence of family planning right here. Now we're focusing in on that cervix, where I showed you the bigger picture with the womb above. The womb would be up here, and the cervix and the vagina down here. And now we get to see the glands that are here. Oftentimes they're called crypts. These are the glands that make the mucus in response to estrogen, and they'll change the mucus production in response to progesterone. With progesterone, it's plug-like. The sperm are trapped in the vagina. They cannot enter even into the cervix, never mind into the womb and the fallopian tube. They need to be in the fallopian tube to achieve a pregnancy. They need to be there when the egg is released. But with progesterone around, they can't enter. The vagina is very acidic, and so the sperm will die within 2 hours. You don't need spermicides. And if there is mucus, probably they'll have a chance of getting into the mucus and hiding there from the spermicide, potentially. Estrogen-like mucus, though, is really neat. It makes me think of the streets of New York City, and I'll tell you why. These protein fibers are spaced just wide enough for the normal head of the sperm. The normal sperm. Sperm are created without regard to quality control. Crank them out, millions of them. Doesn't matter quality, because I, God, the Creator, said, I'm going to make really cool cervical mucus that's going to filter out the abnormal sperm. So just crank them out by the millions, and I'll do the filtering over here, God says. So a normal sperm goes forward. A sperm with a large head may be carrying extra chromosomes. Who wants that to fertilize your egg? Extra chromosomes. No, thank you. How about a sperm with 2 heads? How about a sperm with multiple tails? They can't get in. But how about a sperm with a small head? It's going to be like a Volkswagen, a race car. It's going to race past the normal sperm. The answer is no. It will not, because of something called Brownian motion. God knew about Brownian motion before we discovered it. Brownian motion means that those small-headed sperm can move anywhere they want. They are not directed forward. But, like the streets of New York City and a Cadillac on the streets of New York City, it can't turn around, right? It's going one direction, and that's the direction it's stuck going. And that's the same for the normal sperm, if you follow what I'm saying. With IUI is the artificial doctors saying, give me the sperm, I'm going to put it in a syringe, I'm going to put a cannula on my syringe, jam the cannula up through the cervix, and squish my syringe so that all the sperm end up in the womb. Now that you know about filtering the sperm, who wants to do IUI? You just gave the abnormal sperm an advantage to get to the fallopian tube. And they'll say, oh, we wash it. Well, nobody can explain to me what they do when they're washing the sperm. I don't think it's as good as the cervical mucus. This is to reassure people that are saying, well, this can't really be reliable. Well, it's like, excuse me? Here is ovulation defined or identified by ultrasound. Here is intercourse. There was no mucus on this day. Even though ovulation was 48 hours later, they did not achieve a pregnancy. Here's intercourse. The very next day, she had clear, stretchy mucus. Excellent stuff. Very fertile type mucus. But the day that they had intercourse, there was none of that. Ovulation was documented here. Sperm can live up to 5 days in that mucus, but they did not achieve a pregnancy because this mucus wasn't there the day they had the intercourse. Okay? And here, get a load of this one, there was intercourse the day before ovulation and the day after, and yet they did not achieve a pregnancy because she did not have any cervical mucus. This might be one of my infertility patients. So here's the success rates with Creighton Model fertility care. Almost 2,000 couples were enrolled in this study. The study was done in these 5 different cities in the United States. They monitored the couples for a total of 7